Hi guys, today I am going to tell you some information about video game Garten of Banban. I mean the story. Stinger Flynn first takes the children and workers hiding in the purple room, then the workers hiding in the break room. He then holds them temporarily in the 3 cafeteria, even letting them play with crayons. One of them had been drawing pants on Captain Fiddles. At some point, the children either escape or are taken by something else. Many workers flee the outer sector, scattering throughout the facility. One worker barricaded themselves in the entrance of the communications sector, and suffered constant attacks from Nab, causing them to lose their sanity, writing on a piece of paper, "The spider is real," over and over again. They banged their heads on walls, floors and tables trying to get rid of their thoughts. They ended up killing themselves in the process. A group of workers were trapped in one of the corners in the medical sector, fighting off an attack by Captain Fiddles and his crew. Shortly after, they were overwhelmed and were killed. The galvanium inside of the Captain Fiddles crew completely dried up, leaving all except Cyan Fiddles dead. The player gears up and enters the abandoned Banban's kindergarten, with the goal of finding and saving their child who was enrolled in the kindergarten and was in the building during Bring a Friend Day. Their child was one of the children that were kidnapped by Stinger Flynn during Bring a Friend Day. While venturing through the outer sector, they come across Opala Bird, who begins stalking them, similar to the behavior of a real predator. After entering the ball pit and completing the "What was my color?" puzzle, the player is met with Opala Bird riding a chairlift towards the player. Upon Opala Bird reaching the player, she stalks them until she attempts to attack, but the player activates a bridge using the drone, allowing them to run away, causing Opala Bird to begin pursuit of the player. They then jump off the platform back onto solid ground and, just before Opala Bird can kill them, they activate the emergency stop, causing Opala Bird to fall down the collapsed ball pit, hitting her head on the way down. The player continues on, riding a secret worker lift down, but their ride is interrupted by Jumbo Josh, who climbs onto the lift, and because of his weight, it caused the lift to collapse and fall on top of himself, which knocks him out. The player wakes up laying on the worker lift, which is crushing a currently unconscious Jumbo Josh who has suffered injuries to his head and body, causing permanent marks on his body. The player proceeds out to the hub, where they then enter the communications sector, and hear Banban pretending to be a human security guard. He explains that he walked into the security office and the doors locked behind him. He asks for help getting out. He opens the break room and sends them to the maintenance room. In the maintenance room, Nab runs out of the darkness and begins pursuit of the player. The player manages to escape to the stairs, where Nab, who's locked in tunnel vision, smashes into the wall, knocking him out. The player escapes the situation, rushing to the security office to let Banban, or whoever they think is the security guard, out. When they enter the room, no one is inside, and there is a note on the table. The note reads, "If you read this fast enough, you might be able to escape, but I'm going to hit you very, very hard." And before they are able to finish reading it, Banban strikes them in the back of their head, explaining that he has captured you to have the perfect surgical specimen as well as all their keycards. Banban then takes the unconscious body of the player to the medical sector, where he presumably performs surgery on them. He then stitches the player back up and dumps their body in the storage room of the medical sector. Shortly after this, the player wakes up and proceeds to the medical sector, where they extract the final amounts of galvanium from Captain Fiddles' crew, ensuring that the Captain Fiddles crew is dead forever. The player proceeds out of the medical sector, where they see Zolophius rise from the abyss and that Jumbo Josh has woken up and dragged himself away. The player enters the testing sector, where they run into Opala Bird, who has scars on her face. Banbalina shouts, "Quick in here!" walking back into the room she came from. The player runs over to Banbalina's classroom, where she teaches. Somewhere in the facility, an unknown being calls assembly just as the player enters the assembly room, and following the protocols of assembly, the facility automatically shut the door behind them, locking the player in the middle of the most dangerous room inside of the facility. Banban rises up from an unknown area riding a worker lift behind a piece of reinforced glass. He tells the player that assembly has been called and all of the walkways open with all of the monsters converging upon the room. Jumbo Josh breaks through his door and Banbalina runs out of hers. The player follows the instructions of Banban and runs through Opala Bird's walkway, which she is not in because she is attending to her children. Running through it, Jumbo Josh and Banbalina chase the player, with Jumbo Josh breaking through doors and windows attempting to kill the player, but all of these attempts are in vain as the player reaches the end of the hallway, opening a door on the roof, tricking Banbalina into running under it, causing Jumbo Josh, who's just trying to take either one of them, to crush her into the floor and take her into the darkness as she screams. The player opens the door to the next room and rides a worker lift down to floor B2.